upstairs to the bedrooms. Where's the fire?
It's on the roof. It's on the hook of the house and wall. Oh my God, please. Please,
But the fire service is away.
oh, maybe there's a chapter on the house. Come on, baby.
Broken windows and smoke-blackened walls, the only outward signs of a tragedy that claimed 5 young lives.
Mick and Mairead Philpott lived here in this 3-bedroom semi in Derby. Someone set fire to their house as they slept.
This was a national news story. 5 children who had died in a horrific fire. Everybody wanted to know who could have done something so awful.
It literally shocked us all as a community, as a nation. It was an act of evil.
I've actually been down to our home, and what we saw, we just cannot believe it.
But then there was this very complex love triangle right at the centre of it all.
He was called Shameless Mick. He lived in a menage a trois with a wife and a mistress, and he had 1 child by each woman each year, and they were his meal tickets.
He earned around £60,000 in benefits. He'd been branded in the tabloids, and he represented for some people the worst of benefits Britain.
He thought he was the main man because he was a celebrity.
I think the fame went to his head. If one of the women do or say something wrong, he snapped quick.
That night will never leave me. It will always be etched into me.
There's no evidence they've done nothing.
So I wake up at 4. Brother screaming at me, fire, fire. My brother told me it was Mick's house. I look out the window, I see a little blaze at the door. So I start getting dressed and I run over there. That little blaze had turned from little into big now. So then I climb up onto the caravan at the side of Mick's house. By this time the flames are bursting out the passage window. The smoke was thick, black smoke. 1 lungful of it, I was coughing my guts up. The heat was just intense. It was... you couldn't get near it. So I jumped off the caravan, and that's where I first see Mick and Mairead stood together, hugging each other, crying. I asked Mairead how many kids were in the house. She said 6.
We got the call. There was 6 children that were all trapped upstairs. Immediately there was a sense of urgency about the crew. People were screaming. It was just chaos. I'd seen fires that had been set using accelerants, petrol, and so this to me had all the hallmarks of a fast, rapidly growing fire. I remember thinking, somebody's done this deliberately. We quickly made our way up the stairs. I couldn't see anything at all, it was completely smoke-logged. I leaned forward and then it was a girl. She was laying flat on the bed. She got the duvet pulled up to her chin. I quickly picked her up. We got outside and laid the girl onto the grass. I knew that there was 5 others that needed to get out. So I said, we need to go back in, let's get back in.
The firemen then obviously started bringing the children out. That was it then, they just brought the children out then.
I remember bringing one of the young boys down the stairs. I actually had him sort of here, but his head was just here. I saw Mick Philpott. He grabbed me and pushed me and said to me, my babies, screaming at me, save my babies.
One by one, they was bringing them out, one by one. I knew then, you know, these children are gone. The ambulance, fire crew, they was doing CPR. But you could see they was gone. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
I was at my partner's flat and her son phoned me up, says, you better get up to the Royal Hospital, there's been a fire on Victory Road. And I looked at my partner and she looked at me and she said my face just went pure white.
The Philpott family well known here, neighbours voicing how their father, Mick Philpott, will be feeling.
Everybody knows him, talks to everybody, Raid as well. Can't believe it, whole family wiped out.
He was a very active family man who seemed to thrive on having lots of little ones around him. A very good dad.
The house was attacked in the early hours of Friday morning. Derbyshire police have revealed that something may have been pushed through the letterbox and that petrol was used as an accelerant. Now that detectives know how the fire was started, they're investigating why.
There was a lot of pressure on the police, and so they started taking statements. They took something like 5,000 statements. They interviewed everybody who had bought petrol in a can within a 5-mile radius.
I believe a lot of people was very angry, very distressed. We all knew them as a family and all the children, and we all wanted to know who had done it. Everybody wanted answers. We needed to get to the bottom of it.
I can confirm that a woman in her late 20s has been arrested on suspicion of murder in connection with this case.
Mick and Mairead Philpott lived here in this 3-bedroom semi in Derby when someone set fire to their house as they slept.
When the story broke, I'd got a call from the news desk saying that there had been a fire in Derby, a house fire, and 5 children had died. I remember thinking, oh my gosh, what a dreadful story.
It's the kind of story you would always consider going to as a journalist, particularly with so many deaths. And that might sound cold, but that's how journalism can work.
There was such an outpouring of sympathy. When you heard that story, your heart just melted because you thought, my gosh, 5 children have died in a house fire. Another child is critically ill.
I shot straight up to the children's hospital. I was dreading getting there. I'd known them children since I was born and growing up. I went to see Mick. He asked me if I would go over and see the children in the morgue. And it's the worst thing I've ever seen.
Basically, we just all hung around the hospital. Maria came over to me and I gave her a hug and that there. They were actually told that one had survived and the rest of them are all dead. They're all laid out in the morgue and that there. I didn't want to go in and see them.
Unfortunately, there's been a severe deterioration in the condition of Dwayne. He's been at hospital now, obviously, since the fire. And in essence now, he's only being kept alive by a life support machine, which is very, very sad.
Dwayne wasn't improving. It was getting worse. There was no emotion in him or any colour in him or anything.
He wasn't going to pull through in that there. You know, it's best that they switch his machine off and let him go peacefully.
I watched Dwayne die, which was a nightmare.
I still can't get rid of the pain. It's just constantly on my mind. I've lost 6 grandchildren. I'll come in at night and I'll see them on the wall kind of thing, and some nights I'll sit there and I'll weep, or I'll sit and talk to them for an hour. I'd love to see what they would look like now as they're growing up now, what they would have been doing kind of thing.
Arlington in Derby is an estate. I was brought up there all my life. Bit of a deprived area, a very close-knit community. Mick lived across the road from my mum, so you know, I see Mick on a daily basis.
Used to go to the pub, have a drink, have a laugh. He used to like singing on karaoke, so did I. I thought he was the same bloke. We turned into good mates.
He was a bit brash, thought he was a ladies' man.
He was always trying to chat different women up in the pub. New face walks in, Mick would be there trying to chat her up. He was known as a womanizer, and for some reason Mick could not stick to one woman. He had to have more than one woman.
He'd have a disco weekly in his house.
First I had Mairead living there, and then I went again, and then Lisa was living there. So they had 2 living in one house. I said, well, you're lucky having 2 women living with you. I said, it kills me to live with one. He was the talk at Arlington. Famous Mick.
I just didn't know what to do, didn't know what to say. I thought, well, if that's the life they want, go for it.
If 2 women want to live with Mick, they live with him.
Mick Philpott was certainly living a life unlike most people in the country. father of 17 children, most of them living with him. He's there with his wife, Mairead, who's much younger than him. He's there with his mistress, Lisa, who he would also refer to as his wife.
My auntie, she owned the Osmiston Park pub, where Mick used to sometimes at a weekend DJ. Sort of like grew up Mairead. I know her and all her family. Sometimes I'd go over in the evenings and just sit and have a coffee with Mick and Mairead as a couple. As for the children, I knew them, every single one of them, and Lisa's children too.
I remember asking Mick, are you going to have any more kids? And he said, of course I am. It's more money. Every kid is more money.
A lot of people in the area knew Mick didn't work. They knew that Lisa and Mairead worked. He would openly admit to you, when speaking to him, that he wants to get as much out of the benefit system as possible.
When the kids started coming along, you're saying, I need a bigger house, I need a bigger house. And he said, I'm going to go for a bigger house.
He wants to sit on his arse all day and do nothing, while the girls go out and do everything. So that's how it come about in the local area, Mick the Scrounger.
Mick's journey to fame starts in 2006 with a local news report.
This is about a family that just needs a bigger house.
He's got something like 15 children all under one roof. He demands that the council give him a bigger house.
He had a tent in the garden, and that some of the children were having to sleep in that tent because there wasn't enough room in the house.
He just was playing up to the camera. None of his kids slept in a tent.
There were so many things about this story in a way that represented the country at the time, and it reflected the kind of debates that we were having in Britain about things like the welfare state, whether we should be subsidising these kind of lifestyles, as some people put it.
We should ask some wider questions about our welfare system, how much it costs and the signals that it sends. And we do want to make clear that welfare is there to help people who work hard. It shouldn't be there as a sort of lifestyle choice.
Mick Philpott's unemployed. He doesn't work. He's got no intention of getting a job. He's living off benefits.
They were earning something like £60,000 on benefits.
Mick Philpott's family just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and the British system meant that he could do that, and he could get his money from the state. And the way he was dealt with by the press became a bit of a tabloid figure. There was something very British about that, and he was right at the heart of it.
A lot of tabloids loved him because they knew whenever they put him in the paper, they would get loads and loads of readers. The media had portrayed him as a villain.
He became something of easy fodder that certain newspapers could go to when they want to talk about how some people were living their lives and using the benefit system.
It was TV crews in his house. You know, he thrived off it. He thought he was the main man because he was a celebrity.
He was a bit of a emerging reality TV star. And then the Jeremy Kyle show comes along.
Today I want to discover the man behind the headlines and uncover the truth about the guy who has been branded Britain's biggest scrounger.
He's perfect for that show.
Don't be so defensive that you jump back at me because...
Listen, you're going to criticise my family, pal, and my kids. I'll criticise you as much as I want.
Sorry,
this is a free country and do what I want.
When did I criticise your kids?
You were starting to then, mate. You were starting to.
When Jeremy started telling them things he didn't like, he flared up because it's not Mick's way and it's not Mick's world.
There was one point where Jeremy Kyle asks Mairead a question and Mick immediately jumps in and he says, tell him what we spoke about.
Can I...
No, she's going to speak.
Right, you just tell him what we said.
So you told her what to say as well?
I'll tell you what, I'll say it.
And he just jumps in and talks all over her, and she doesn't get the chance to speak for herself.
It was laughable watching Mick on Jeremy Kyle. But when you see Mick in the street, he thought it was brilliant. Did you see me on Jeremy Kyle? Yeah, I told Jeremy. Embarrassing, really.
Not long after Jeremy Kyle, he did a show with a government minister, Anne Widdecombe, and she did a programme with him about people on benefits.
I made a film on benefits and on reliance on benefits and the benefits culture. And the most shameless example that the team came up with was Mick Philpott. He was called Shameless Mick.
I'm Anne.
Hello, Anne. I'm Mick. Pleased to meet you, love.
Very pleased to meet you too.
He had a caravan outside his house, And his exact words to me were, "So I service one night and the other the next night. Service like a farm animal." I made a film on benefits, and the team found me Mick Philpott, who had already established a character as Britain's leading benefit scrounger, who was known as Shameless Mick because he was absolutely and utterly shameless about it.
Hello, I'm Anne.
Hello, Anne. I'm pleased to meet you, love.
Very pleased to meet you too.
At the time that I met him, he was living in a house with his wife, his mistress.
This is my wife, Mairead.
Hello, Mairead.
This is going to sound strange. This is my second wife, Lisa.
Hello, Lisa.
11 children, 6 by the wife and 5 by the mistress. And his practice was to have 1 child by each woman every year. And those children were meal tickets.
He told me he was going to be on it. And I said, "What are you doing that for, Mick?" And he said, "I'm going for a bigger house and she might be able to help me."
I suppose I spent possibly 3 days trying to get him a job.
I'm looking after my kids.
Get a job.
Listen, this shows you what a bitch you are, doesn't it?
Get a job.
He glorified being on the benefit. It wasn't fair on other people that were on benefits because some people that were on benefits were generally actively looking for work.
Mick Philpott was such an extreme example of living that kind of life. And I think it was handy for some people to use him as a poster boy, the ultimate scrounger. That didn't represent anyone else in a vaguely similar position because there was no one else in a vaguely similar position.
How have you got 2 wives? They don't allow it in this country.
Well, no, but I class him as 2 wives.
He had a wife and he had a mistress. He didn't have 2 wives. We don't have polygamy in this country. But the fact is he acted as though he was running a mini harem.
Every bitch out there who's got children at home and they're not working.
Yep.
So how come they're not scroungers?
I'm quite happy for any of you to work.
So how come I'm called a scrounger?
I'm quite happy for any of you to work. I'm quite happy for any of the 3 of you to work, but you don't. Oh, dear me.
You're all that.
He was shameless about the scrounging. He was shameless about his intention to live on the taxpayer for life. He was shameless about his attitude towards the women.
This is the caravan.
This is the caravan, look, where you'll be sleeping.
You use as a sort of spare room, yeah?
Yeah. I mean, I sleep in here all the time, and the girls take it in turns in here with me. I'll have one night and one another night.
He had a caravan outside his house. Told me that one night one woman slept there and the next night another woman slept there. But his actual expression when he was describing this to me was that he serviced them like a farm animal. I mean, not made love.
The caravan, the famous caravan. Either Lisa was staying there one night or Mairead was staying there one night. That's how it went.
The community knew this. Mick made sure everyone knew this. He knew everyone had seen him on telly. And his motto was, if the caravan's rocking, don't come knocking.
Now, normally, if this caravan's rocking, you better not come knocking because this is where it all happens. As you can see, this is a nice big king-sized bed. This is where the action takes place, if you know what I mean. I'm not going to say too much about it.
When I seen Mick on the television, I just thought, what a plonker.
First of all, it was funny, you know, and then it got to the point I thought, surely this can't be right for the kids.
How must that have felt on them? You know, knowing that the dad's in the caravan with the stepmom and then the next day your dad's in the caravan with his marital wife and your mother.
I think the fame went to his head because, like, if somebody said the wrong word to him, he'd end up arguing with him. His temper got shorter. So I felt sorry for them kids and them women.
In a part of the programme, when we went into a local pub and we met some pensioners, you know, they were managing their lives on the state pension. And I was getting Mick to come along and talk to them, and he didn't want to.
Your MPs are all the same. You're all gob, 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 gob.
Oh, yeah.
And I challenged him as to whether or not he was ashamed of it all, and then said to him that he was a coward because he wouldn't go and meet them.
I am ashamed, being at home.
Oh, you go in there. You're a coward.
Let's do as a coward, bitch. Let's move it.
I actually thought he was going to hit me at that point, and I did sort of flinch back.
He had a quick temper. If one of the women do or say something wrong, he'd snap quick. He'd really have a go at them and tell them to effing behave and everything.
They were both completely under Mick Philpott's spell for whatever reason I cannot work out, but they were. They seemed to accept the fact that he controlled the purse strings, even though he didn't earn a penny of it. And what about the council tax? How much is that?
God knows.
Well, I expect he does. I was wondering if you'd...
No, because I don't pay it. He pays the bills.
He does the pay. You don't know what's coming in. You don't know what's going out.
When I went in there, it was kind of strange because you never seen Lisa and Mairead really talk together. It was like one would be on one side of the room and the other would be on the other side of the room, or both dealing with the kids. You never seen Lisa or Mairead really happy, smiling. They always looked stressed, down, depressed.
He claimed to be this doting, loving father who wanted to be a stay-at-home dad when technically you couldn't have cared less about your children. It was Lisa and Mairead that cared for the children. Mick just sat down and passed me the lighter. Do this. Go and make me a coffee. Do that.
Mairead was withdrawn within herself. She didn't really socialise with anyone because Mick wouldn't allow it. She went to work, home, looked after the kids. She always looked a little bit lost to me. I personally don't think Lisa was happy, had no social life. I don't think she was even allowed social media because of Mick's jealousy.
She's not married. Mairead is increasingly upset with the situation, and Lisa feels that she's got no position of any kind of significance in the household. Mick Philpott decided there was a solution to this, and he suggested that he divorce Mairead and marry Lisa, so Lisa was then Lisa Philpott.
Sometimes, I wish I hadn't got married to Mairead, and in that way there wouldn't be the difference between Mairead and Lisa, which unfortunately there is.
He did suggest divorcing me to marry Lisa, so then Lisa would have his name then. But I told him I wouldn't divorce him.
Why not?
People that have affairs do that.
The idea that, you know, only people who have affairs divorce, I mean, what do you think he was doing? Under her nose every other night. Come on.
Lisa, Mairead and Mick had been living in this weird situation for almost 10 years. Lisa was considered almost the other woman because she wasn't married to Mick. So Mairead automatically had some kind of authority over her as she was the wife. And Lisa was really starting to grow tired of this situation.
Lisa and Mairead, Lisa is the strongest one. She thinks for herself, where Mairead, Mick thought for her. When Lisa gets something in the head, she'll do it.
Lisa decides to leave Mick. She can't live in that situation anymore, but she's so terrified of telling Mick that she's leaving because she fears the consequences. So she tells Mairead that her and the children are going swimming, and she literally leaves in the clothes that they're all standing up in.
I went up there one day and I said, "Where's Lisa?" And he said, "She's gone with the kids." I said, "You're joking?" He said, "No, she's gone with the kids." I laughed at him. I said, "You lost one now, ain't you?" He was going mad. That's half his income gone.
He wasn't happy. Oh, no. He wasn't happy. And he certainly was not going to let her get away. Even if she did get away, he certainly was going to make sure that he kept the children.
In early April, Mick's driving a group of friends in a van to a darts match, and he takes a call on his mobile phone, And then he tells the people in the van that someone has made a threat to firebomb his house.
I went over to Mick's and Mairead's. He was calling Lisa all the names under the sun. He told me that he was receiving letters. Lisa had sent threats to burn the house down. He went to the police and reported it. He was seeking legal advice about getting in contact with his children or trying to remove them from Lisa, saying she was unfit as a mother.
A court date is set, a custody battle is playing out, and then the night before that, just hours before that, a fire breaks out in the house with 6 children asleep upstairs.
5 days after 6 of his children were killed in a fire as they slept, Mick Philpott and his wife Mairead called a press conference.
It was one of the most bizarre press conferences that I had ever covered.
It looked like he was overthinking it.
Detectives believe there is someone in this community who knows more than they have currently been able to find out.
I thought to myself, there's a bit more than what meets the eye here, Mick. What's going on?
As the children are being resuscitated, Mick ran over, screaming at the police, I told you this would happen. Kissed one of his children and then went. You know, it was, I couldn't believe it. You know, if that was me, I'd be on the pavement with my children, begging the Lord to please try and save them. After the fire, on that morning, the children had gone to hospital. It wasn't until then that I realised something wasn't right. Something felt wrong. The police were doing door-to-door inquiries. One evening we had a knock on the door, and that's when I said to the police officer, look, I think there's something that you guys maybe need to know.
Detectives believe there is someone in this community who knows more than they have currently been able to find out.
The investigation goes in various directions. Police have to consider every possibility, anyone who might have a grudge, anyone who might have a reason to do this. Mick and Mairead give a version of events to the police. They describe what they claim happened that night is that they were at the house, everything was normal, children have gone to bed, Paul Mosley is there.
Paul Mosley was Mick Philpott's friend. They had a very strange relationship. They even looked a bit alike. The couple said that they had been playing snooker with their friend Paul Mosley the night before the fire.
At about 1:30, Paul leaves, he goes home, and Mick and Mairead are watching television in bed. Everything is normal and they go to sleep. And then they're later woken up, according to them, by the sound of the smoke alarm.
I can confirm that a woman in her late 20s has been arrested on suspicion of murder in connection with this case.
Mick's mistress, Lisa Willis, is arrested and taken in for questioning. She is seen as a suspect because she's left that house and because of the custody battle.
I was led to believe that it was Lisa that set the fire. Mick had been, you know, he told me 2 weeks prior to the house fire that Lisa was sending him death threats saying that, it was, you know, she was going to blow the house up with him marauding the kids in it, and how she loved him and he wouldn't take her back and things like that. But growing up with Lisa as a friend, I knew that it wasn't really enough to do that. I thought to myself, there's a bit more than what meets the eye here, Mick. What's going on?
Five days after the fire, we were told that Mick and Mairead Philpott would be giving a press conference, and this would be the first time that we had heard from them since that dreadful fire had led to the death of 6 of their children.
As the pair walk in, they look upset, they look hurt. Their heads are down, the tissues are there, they're dabbing their eyes, particularly Mick.
I've actually been down to our home, and what we saw, we just cannot believe it.
But then very quickly, there's just an air of, this isn't quite right.
It was like he was giving an Oscars acceptance speech. He starts off thanking a long list of people. He starts off thanking the emergency services.
And of course, it's the poor firemen, the police, and the ambulances, the doctors, the nurses, literally everybody who tried to help save our children, they couldn't.
And then we get into this strange subject of organ donation, talking about poor Dwayne.
We're going to donate his organs to save another child, which is what we want, because if you can save another child, that makes us happy.
Why is the word happy being introduced at that press conference? Yes, do donate organs, and yes, at some point in the future talk about it, but none of it feels right in that moment.
Mick does all of the speaking, Mairead doesn't say anything, and you know, at the time he thought perhaps she was just so overcome. She didn't make eye contact with any of us. She looked down throughout it all.
And there's a very unusual moment in that press conference where he almost signalled to us all to see how upset he is.
Excuse me a minute.
It looked like he was overthinking it.
It was one of the most bizarre press conferences that I had ever covered.
A lot of people in the community after the fire rallied round to help Mick, because potentially he lost everything in the fire. The neighbourhood was in shock that something this tragic could happen.
People here are appealing for money. A charity has been set up, its core purpose to pay for 5 funerals.
Travelling community at the time, they gave him £15,000 to Mick Philpott to help towards the cost of the funeral.
A few people gave him money, a few people donated clothes.
If they weren't designer, he didn't want them.
He come up one night, and all of a sudden he just chucked this big wad of money on the floor. I said, where'd you get that from? He said, I've been telling that wood. Just pure £20 notes on the floor.
I heard with that money he was out shopping. He was out in pubs singing Suspicious Minds on karaoke.
Caught in a trap, I can't walk out.
No, Mick did sing a lot of Elvis Presley songs. He loved Elvis Presley. But at the same time, that song, at that moment in time, I just don't think it was right. I don't believe it was normal.
We can't go on together with suspicious minds.
That's not the behaviour of someone who's just lost 6 children.
How can you as a mother lose your 6 children? Then you're in the pub, getting drunk, singing Suspicious Mind, Elvis Presley.
Everybody in Derby said, that is weird. Why would a man, a few days after his kids had died, go to a pub and sing Suspicious Minds? Stupid.
With the press conference being so strange, we had to ask questions, but clearly the police were keeping things under wraps. I spoke off camera afterwards to a police officer and said words to the effect of, come on, we all know something's not quite right here. And I think what I got was a sort of a nod and a wink. You're not the only one with suspicions. We're on this.
Mick Philpott, before the press conference, was very jovial, more or less bounced into the room, seemed to be very excited at the prospect of going out to face the media. Well, I thought it was a performance.
The tears?
What tears? What I saw, it was somebody who was using a crutch of a tissue. And if I'm being brutally frank in this interview, it was nothing more than a sham.
What Mick and Mairead didn't realise is that the police had suspicions about the couple. The night before the press conference, they had bugged their hotel room. And on those tapes, Mick is asking Mairead what she had told the police, and they're discussing that evidence.
What did you say? Tell me what you said to him then. What you said about how many times I went up ladders.
I can't remember what's going on. How many times I went up the ladders?
He's talking about what happened at the night, how many times he went up the ladder, making sure they're presenting the same version of events. It's clearly very suspicious.
Why didn't my kids hear me? Why did the fire set so quick? They're not going to find any evidence, are they?
What the police heard on those bugs led them to suspect Mick and Mairead. They thought the couple were responsible for setting that fire.
What then happens, which takes this into an even stranger and quite dark place, is that Paul Mosley, Mick's friend, visits the hotel room.
Officers hear Mick telling Mairead to perform a sex act on Paul.
You can smell it when you come back. And you just said, I also had a certain effect. Kick his head up and I could trade off.
She gives Paul oral sex in that hotel room, and it's captured on the police recording.
Proud of you. But she didn't want to do it.
This is just days after the children have died. It's really taking this to a whole new, very sick, weird, unpleasant place. What's on that police bug gives the police enough evidence to arrest Mick and Mairead Philpott. They're arrested on suspicion of murder.
At 10 o'clock this morning, police arrested Mick Philpott and his wife Mairead on suspicion of the murder of the 6 children who died in the fire in this house. They've been questioned throughout the day today, and police say they'll continue to question them tomorrow.
When Mick and Mairead are arrested, the police decide to bug the van. So as they're travelling along, we hear more of their conversation.
What did you say about me trying to get in?
You tried everything you could to get in. Like I said to him, I wanted to run through the flames. Instead.
What'd you cry when you were saying it? How bad?
Not really, really bad, but I did cry.
On the circle. Have you got any evidence on you? They've got nothing on me. Nothing.
There's only one reason to have that conversation, and there it is, on tape, for the police to listen to.
Number 18 Victory Road is boarded up now, and on a grey morning in Derby, they drove the coffins of the children who died there along the road to their funeral service. 6 pairs of horses, 6 coffins.
When we drove by the house, I just got a shiver going down me, as if something was crawling on me. And one of my daughters asked me if I'm all right. I said, yeah, I'm fine. I said, just let's get away from the house. I said, I need to get away. There was people that maybe didn't even know them standing crying, seeing all the little coffins going by.
I carried my little friend Jack's coffin. He was the one that always used to come and attack me. It was a really sad day to have to bury all them children.
That funeral was gut-wrenching for everybody there. You didn't have to know the family. Those 6 coffins all lined up. And then you have this horrible layer on top, is that the parents, who should be grieving and should be there, aren't there because they're in custody, and people think they've done it.
This is a town still in shock, distressed, confused and angered by what happened. The parents of the Philpott children have been charged with their murder.
It was strange Mick and Mairead not being there, because they're the parents of the children who's been buried. Would have been arrested, charged with arson and murder.
I do believe if they would have attended the funeral would not have gone as well as what it did. And them children shouldn't have lost their lives.
The secret police recordings are absolutely crucial.
How did my kids hear me? Why did the fire set so quick? They're not going to find any evidence, are they?
This inquiry shouldn't be seen as over because we've made the 2 arrests. And I think that's my main message today is, please, for goodness sake, think of those poor children in that house and do the right thing and give us the information.
Paul Mosley used to follow me around and he'd say, Mick and Mairead's all right, they didn't do anything and they'll be out soon. I said to my mum, he keeps following me. And my mother made me ring the officer, got the officer to my mum's house on Victory Road, and with that, Paul Mosley got arrested as well.
There are 2 strands of evidence that police have against Paul Mosley, and that's the bug, the recording in the hotel room, and then there's forensic evidence as well, petrol on his clothes, linking him to the fire. And initially, the accusation is that it's him, it's Paul, who started the fire.
They arrived at court this morning for a despicable crime, deliberately setting a fire which killed 6 of their own children.
The trial started in Nottingham. I went every single day. Never missed a day throughout the whole trial for, I think it was about 5 or 6 weeks, maybe more.
It was a huge event. There was lots and lots of attention, lots of cameras there, lots of media. People were so angry at Mick and Mairead and what they were accused of. They were very angry with their friend, Paul Mosley. So at times it was really intense in that courtroom.
Mick Philpott loves a stage, and in a way I think the courtroom was another stage for him. There was an occasion when he's forced to listen to the 999 call where he collapsed in the witness box. He slumped to the floor.
The fire service is away.
But there he was, performing again. And it was almost darkly comedic. Some people were struggling not to laugh because he looked like a ridiculous, hopeless figure.
There was nothing wrong with him. It was basically within 2 seconds he was back up and sitting back in the chair. It was just an act. Think, oh, if I collapse, they're going to take pity on me.
During the trial, we heard some of the evidence about what the couple claim happened on the night. And I remember sitting in court and listening to some of it and thinking, that just doesn't add up. They started to say things like, you know, they had tried to rescue the children, but it turned out that their neighbours, they told the court that actually Mick never bothered to try, that he was acting really bizarrely.
I got called to court to give evidence against Mick Mairead regarding the fire. The atmosphere, it was electric as such. But to me it seemed slow motion. They asked me questions about what happened during that night. All the time I was looking at Mick and he couldn't look at me. To the point that the prosecution and the judge said, could you please look at us when answering questions? But I couldn't take my eyes off him and he couldn't look at me.
I had to go to court and give evidence against Michael and Mairead Philpott. My blood was boiling. I didn't even want to breathe the same air as him. The prosecution made me go over and over several times about what he was saying about the fire and the letters from Lisa and things like that.
During the trial, the prosecution made it very clear to the jury that they believed Mick had come up with this plan because he wanted to get revenge on Lisa for leaving him. So they painted the fact that he was this guy who thought he was in charge of the women in his life. Mick Philpott didn't like anybody having the audacity to leave him.
It's no surprise that a man like Mick Philpott, who is controlling and has 2 women living in his house, has a previous history of violence. In 1978, Mick has a girlfriend called Kim Hill, the girl that was much younger than him. When we see the level of violence in Kim and Mick's relationship, it really helps us understand the type of man he is. Eventually, Kim is brave enough to end the relationship, and she does this by writing a letter to Mick. This enrages him. Nobody finishes with Mick Philpott. He was so angry that he went into her house when she was in bed and stabbed her multiple times. And it's only absolute luck that saved Kim from being killed. In 1995, Mick meets Heather Kehoe, who at the time is only 14 years old. On her 16th birthday, she falls pregnant with their first child.
Heather was very isolated from the world. She wasn't allowed friends or family. Mick would take Heather shopping. She'd be carried from the house, in the car, straight to the shops and straight back home.
Heather goes on to give birth to 2 boys. And following this, Mick Philpott beats her because he wants a girl.
Several times I used to go over, she'd have black eyes. One morning I went over and Mick did actually chuck a hot scalding cup of coffee over her. She had hold of the child at the time and the glass was like that far from the baby's head.
He locks her outside in the garden and she has to curl around the toilet outside until he allows her back into the house. Finally, she decides enough is enough. She can't cope anymore. She climbs over a fence and she goes to a police station to report him for abuse. What follows is a lengthy, embittered custody battle in court for the children. Mick Philpott tries to discredit Heather. He tries to paint her as a bad mother. But thankfully, the court decides in Heather's favour and the children remain with her.
Mairead and Mick Philpott met at the Osmaston Park Hotel. He used to come up and do karaoke on a Sunday, and Mairead used to come in and be a customer, and obviously that's how they met. He was significantly older than Mairead. I believe Mick could have been old enough to be a father.
Somebody told me, oh, Mick's gone out from Mairead. Well, I thought nothing of it at the time. I mean, they were moving into a house together. I thought that's good, you know. Maybe this is what she needs to settle her down a bit. She said, oh, we're thinking of getting married. What do you think about it? And I said, well, if the two of you are happy together, go for it. Mick and Mairead's wedding, it was quite a good day. Mick's behaviour at the church was fine, but once he got back to the club, it was just brown all the women that were there.
When Mick and Mairead got married, Lisa was the bridesmaid. Mick was seen and all. She was the bridesmaid at his wedding.
Mairead was over with me, and Mick came over and she says, right, you girl, come on. Grabbed her by the arm and pulled her away and that there, and I thought to myself, there's something not right there.
Arriving at court today, the couple and their friend Paul Mosley heard the prosecution suggest that their unconventional domestic life was the catalyst for the fire.
There was a very dramatic moment in the trial when Lisa takes to the stand. So this is the first time we've heard from her in her own words. And we hear just how awful it was for her living in that house.
With most court cases, you never quite know how the jury have judged it. There's this mini second of silence and everyone waiting to hear what the word is and the anticipation.
Giving evidence from behind a screen, the defendants listened as Ms. Willis claimed her benefits and wages were paid directly into Mr. Philpott's account. Both women would have to ask him for money.
When Lisa Willis gives evidence, she opens up a whole new chapter to this story and reveals more about the real Mick Philpott. She talks about an occasion where he's attacked her, beaten her with a piece of wood, and that's because of a row over the fatherhood of one of her children.
When Mairead takes the stand, she also starts to reveal just what it was like living with Mick Philpott. And she gave some details about their lifestyle. She told the court that they had started dogging.
They used to go out at night. There's a certain dogging spot in Derby, and they used to go there and used to change partners, go from one car to another car.
It was something more that Mick wanted to do, 100%. She only does what he tells her to do. If he says she's got to do it, she's got to do it. He ruled her.
She says on one of those occasions she got pregnant by another man, and when they found out, Mick insisted that she had an abortion. She had no choice in the matter. She had to get rid of that child because Mick told her to. So Mairead tried to paint a picture of herself as somebody who was very, very vulnerable, who Mick had preyed upon. It seemed as though she was just as determined as Mick to try and get sympathy for herself, no matter what it took.
This is sort of simpering a sob story of her past and the abuse that she had suffered, and she of course denied being part of this plot. She denied that she had done anything to harm her children.
During the trial, we heard some of the evidence about how the fire started.
We were told that the fire started below the letterbox.
What we do know is that the fire was started by shell petrol. Items of clothing that were taken from Mr. Philpott, including his footwear, they were chemically examined for the presence of certain chemical additives from petrol. It seems that his boxer shorts showed an association with shell petrol. the additive packages were present, and certainly at the trial it formed a significant part of the case against Mr. Philpott.
The police believe that either Mick or Mairead poured the petrol and then passed the can to Paul Mosley, because they also found traces of petrol on Paul Mosley's clothes.
One witness said they'd heard Paul Mosley saying, "We'd actually rehearsed the plan. We'd rehearsed it 6 weeks earlier." The prosecution laid this out quite simply for the jury. Mick Philpott wanted to set up Lisa Willis. He wanted to blame her for the fire. Then he would be able to get his children back. He would be rewarded financially. He might ultimately get the bigger house that he'd always wanted. So the plan was set the house on fire, rescue the children, be the hero. This is a ridiculous, sick, twisted plan that's gone wrong, and those children have paid the price. And that's how it was presented to the jury.
Their community had had to listen to this, who had rallied round this couple, who had helped them raise money for the funerals, who had tried to comfort them. And yet in court, we had heard all this evidence suggesting that in fact it was Mick and Mairead themselves who had started that fire.
With most court cases, even if you think the evidence is pretty strong, you never quite know how the jury have judged it. There's this mini second of silence and everyone waiting to hear what the word is and the anticipation.
Mick and Mairead Philpott and their best friend Paul Mosley were all found guilty of the manslaughter of 6 children.
Victory today! They've gone down!
We all cheered. And my youngest daughter shouted up, "You fucking murdering bastard!"
There was a massive outburst. You know, some people were clapping, some people were relieved. Mairead started crying. She was dabbing her eyes, I remember, with a tissue.
The last thing Mick did, having been convicted, was stick 2 fingers up towards the people sitting in the public gallery. But at that point, he'd finally lost control.
After all the weeks of evidence, all the drama in court, all the denials, now the prison sentence begins.
The couple are driven away to begin their sentences. A small crowd of hecklers chasing the van. Mick Philpott could be out in 15 years. Mairead Philpott and Paul Mosley in less than 8.
I'm glad they got found guilty, because they deserve to get found guilty, but I'm not happy with the sentence.
I think it's shocking. I think that they should have got like 6 life sentences.
They got such a light sentence in my eyes. Especially Mairead and Paul. They was just as bad as him. They should have all had life term meaning life.
Come once a month to visit and check and make sure everything's okay and there's no damage or nothing's been stolen off the headstones or that. They would all be grown-up adults now. Like Jade was born in 2001, so she'd be 20-odd now. Somebody reckons that Mairead comes once a month to the cemetery. I just tell her, I'm so ashamed of you. I can honestly believe you would do something to your kids.
There was lovely little children, well-mannered, very happy, very bubbly. Sorry, I'm getting a bit choked up because I have children myself, and Them poor little angels. God bless them.
Just the nature of the deaths, the fire. Mick Philpott, the man, the darkly comedic character, the person who was milking the state for every penny he could get. You put it all together and it just sticks.
The way in which he treated that community with contempt, in complete contrast with the love and support that that community showed, is something that I'll always remember.
That night will never leave me. It will always be etched into me. Yeah, always.